So 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, takes away probably 2 runs there defensively. That's 5 runs he's involved in. Matt Chapman. Olsen skies one high and deep to right field toward the corner. Adele onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On it goes. Which is hit out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run for McCutchen. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
All right, everybody, welcome in to the very latest edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. Of course, I am your host, Kevin Wilson, and joining us from a couple of weeks' absence, and as he was telling me before we went live, he was out there on the highways and byways of the great state of Pennsylvania. Dan is back with us. How are we doing tonight, Dan?
I'm doing very good. I think the last 2 Sunday games for the Phillies have been the most mind-boggling finishes that I can think of. So I'm kind of glad I wasn't here last week because it went against the Phillies. But this week,
right, Nick and I discussed that.
A crazy finish went the Phillies' way, both against the Dodgers. So today I'm feeling a lot better than I was last Sunday about a Phillies loss.
All right, so also of the Phillies persuasion, as you all know, we have Nick with us again today. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. And speaking of the Phillies, and Kevin, I want to bring this up to you specifically.
Okay.
Did you know who won last week's National League Player of the Week?
I did not. I didn't see that.
Oh, it was Bryce Harper of the Bryce
okay.
Baby.
Okay. So he's a player that because we talked about him last week, and he, with his injection and everything, then he missed, what was it, 4 or 5 games, but I believe he's back. He was on the field today, or not on the field. He won't be on the field for a while, but he's back at least at the plate. So that's good news for all of course, you two and all the Philly fans that are out there.
And all the fantasy owners.
Before we get into our official baseball discussion, of course, we got to bring up our sponsor, and that is InTheClutch.com. And, of course, if you're watching this show, you are a baseball fan. Perhaps you know other baseball fans. Let them know that In the Clutch has tons of baseball items. They've got apparel officially licensed, and they've got a lot of retro items on there. They've got other sports as well. You could spend a lot of time just going through their sites. They've got cool shirts. They got players of today, players of yesteryear. And so you need to get over there, not during the show, but as soon as we're done here, get over to InTheClutch.com and remember to use the code BellyUpFantasy to get 10% off of your entire order. So we are definitely excited to have those guys along with us now. And so we're going to get into the baseball news this past week. And, baseball just can't seem to shake, the controversial play or, player. In this case, of course, we're talking about Matt Harvey and the fact that, I didn't even know Matt Harvey was still around, to be quite honest about it. But he was suspended for 60 games because he distributed a drug of abuse. And he was one of the ones that provided opioids to Ricky Skaggs. Of course, he's the pitcher who died about 3 years ago here in the state of Texas of a drug overdose. And he was down there pitching in the minor league camp in Florida. And so, Dan, what's your reaction to all this? Because this is just bad.
Yeah, and you read more about Matt Harvey and the story. He goes into depth about him and Tyler Skaggs just they're just trying to stay on the field, and it's tough. Because it's a sport that if you don't produce and you're not on the field, it'll leave you behind. So it's a shame that Tyler Skaggs felt that he had to endanger himself and do all these things to stay on the field. But that's the reality of the game that we all love and the game they play, unfortunately. And Matt Harvey he's talked about his own struggles with opioids and other drugs of abuse, and it's a tough game. And for a guy like Matt Harvey that has experienced the highs that he has, and now apparently obviously the lows, it shows that these guys are humans, and there's a lot of stress that goes into playing Major League Baseball.
So Nick, what's your reaction to this story?
I think it's a shame. When you were talking, when Dan was talking about how to stay on the field, I remember hearing stories about baseball players in the 70s and in the early 80s. They were taking greenies because they would do a night game and then turn around and then do a day game. And I don't remember hearing of anybody that had overdosed on those. But it's a shame, the fact that number one that Skaggs died, and then of course number two,
yes, absolutely,
that you had Harvey supply them. So what do you feel? Do you think he should be banned more than 60 games? Do you think he should be banned for life? I mean, his career came in and out within a flash. Like, he literally was a flash in the pan. He was on top of baseball's world there for like a season or so, and then he just fell off a table. So what do you think should happen to him as far as let's say legally and professionally?
Well, legally, from what I understand, is that he admitted all this, and he was given what's the word? I can't think of it. He was promised he wouldn't be prosecuted.
Immunity, then, yeah.
Yeah. So legally, the issue is settled. And I think that baseball has made this judgment of a 60 games, so baseball has weighed in already. The question to me is, would you want this guy on your baseball team? And I would say absolutely not. Because, you don't want a guy that's in your clubhouse because he's a confirmed drug user, first of all. And then second of all, he's not just a user, but he was a distributor. So I think, and like I said, he was in the minor league camp. He's not even in the major leagues. And I believe his ERA was something like 6 something last year. So I think he's done as a major league pitcher. So Dan, do you see that any other way?
No, I completely agree with you. Matt Harvey was probably done anyway.
Anyway. That's right.
And now this just adds to it, because at the MLB has proven, and most of its teams have proven, that if you can contribute, they will let you back. But unless Matt Harvey has a career resurgence, I doubt we see him in the major leagues again.
Yeah. So, like I said, that's just a sordid tale of baseball. And, it's one of the things that we really don't want to talk about too much, because we'd rather celebrate baseball. But, we got to put out what's going on in the real world. And so since we've done that, I thought that since we would switch to a much more upbeat conversation. And because we decided that we were going to talk about our favorite baseball movies. And so, Dick, why don't you count us down? What are your 3 favorite baseball movies?
Okay, so my 3 favorite baseball movies. In fact, I watched one. I caught it the other night. It's got to be Major League. Number one. That's just, to me, that's one of the more quotable movies ever, and especially amongst baseball fans. I mean, you could, especially at the beginning of the baseball season, they always play it on like TNT, TBS, what have you, and then you could always just put it on Facebook, just one line, should have got a live chicken, and then everybody that's in your feed is going to start putting in, all the rest of the lines. That's a classic I love to watch. Bull Durham, you love to watch that. And then another Kevin Costner movie has got to be Field of Dreams. I like that one as well. And then one that doesn't get a whole lot of play. If it's like 3B, I like Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yes,
It's
that's one of
hokey.
my favorite movies too. Yes.
It's hokey. It's corny, but you know what? It passes the time. You know, and then you can throw in. And I have some others in there that I have forgotten, but those would be like my top 3, 4 ones.
All right, so Dan, we had touched on this before we went live, but go ahead and what are your top baseball movies?
Well, Bull Durham Major League really should be on everyone's list. I mean, when you talk about really good baseball movies that every time you see them, you just flip to them and you sit there and you watch it, those are got to be the top 2. Personally, Moneyball is a favorite of mine. The A's seem to have gone a little too far into Moneyball and saving money this year. But that's always a movie that I enjoy watching. And then 42, another one. Chadwick Boseman does a fantastic job at portraying Jackie Robinson, and just a very good movie. And all baseball movies you can sit down and watch, but those 4 are really the ones that stand out for me.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Major League is probably not, when we're talking about quality of movie, is not on the level of some of these other ones, but it's such a fun movie to watch. And, and I have to agree with you, Nick. Mr. Baseball, if I'm flipping through the channels and I see that, it's the channel flipping's got to stop.
It's like Back to the Future. I mean, no matter what you're doing, as soon as you hit Back to the Future,
yeah,
all of your work production stops. It's just whatever.
So you might as well just cancel the rest of the night because that's what you're going to do the rest of the way. And I like Bull Durham myself, and because you can kind of see a little bit, how you got Crash Davis, and he was teaching the rookie pitcher about baseball and life and everything else. When he first meets him, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat and stuff like that, but my favorite baseball movie of all time is The Sandlot. And because that shows baseball at its very essence. You're out in the backyard, or you're out in the lot, or wherever it is that you are, and everybody's, you get everybody to come in, and you're just out there having fun. And you talk about quotable lines when James Earl Jones finds out that the kid was playing with the signed Babe Ruth baseball, and he tells him, well, you're dead where you stand. So, but these other movies that you mentioned, 8 Men Out is also a great movie, talking about the whole, Black Sox scandal and everything. So, you can sit there and you can just put on baseball movies back to back to back, and next thing you know, it's the next day. And so those are the kind of movies that I'm, talking about right there. And, that's a much better subject than the one we were just talking about, and why we are baseball fans. And so I want to transition away from that a little bit. And, Nick, last week we talked about Trevor Story. You talk about one of the baseball, situations that happens, and how he got booed at his home park and everything else. Well, all he's done is hit 5 home runs this past week. That's all.
And they cheered him, just like I said they would.
You're right about that, and it just shows how fickle fans are. And it just don't be impatient. Don't be impatient. This is a fantasy show. That applies to fantasy as well. A lot of times, if you took Trevor Story, you took him relatively probably high in your draft, I would say. And that's not a guy that you're going to lose. You shouldn't lose patience in. And if you cut him loose because he was hitting 135 or whatever it was, you miss out now, because he's hit 5 home runs this week. He hit one today, as a matter of fact. And so that's one of the lessons that we can translate this over to fantasy baseball. You got to, maintain, patience with your stud players. And so, I just wanted to bring that up because we talked about it last week, Nick. And I don't understand how you're booing players from your own team. I get it, if you want to boo, Santa Claus in Philadelphia and whatever else that goes on, but booing your own players, that I'm just not with that. So
Hey,
I'm
we're
glad
from
for
Philly.
Trevor's
We know
story.
all about that.
Yep. So
I think this is a lesson that booing works. He boos
maybe
Trevor
it is.
Story, and then he hits 5 home runs in a week.
Okay, maybe if we look at it from that perspective, but
Marcus Semien.
good for Trevor Story. And so, I put out an article earlier this week talking about the status of some of the injuries of the big stars of Major League Baseball. And so, and before, you put out a story and the next thing you turn on and the next thing you know, somebody like Max Scherzer goes down. And so, since you guys are Philadelphia guys and the Mets, we're going to talk about standings in a minute, but the Mets are playing extremely well. Do you think, because he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, do you think that who are the Mets going to pitch now, Dan? So how do you think this is going to affect the Mets and the rest of the division?
Well, normally the bad luck and the poor breaks start for the Mets in August or so and carry into September. But I guess they're starting in May this year because they can only have so much good in Queens, it appears. And you're right. The pitching is it's not thin behind Max Scherzer, but it's very much not on the level of Max Scherzer, and not many people are. But
right,
this puts a renewed importance on the acquisition of Chris Bassett.
Right,
it puts more pressure on Tyler Megill. It puts more pressure on Taijuan Walker, and they're pitching well right now, and the Mets are playing well in general. But now with less proven names and maybe with another injury coming up, who knows? And without arguably two of the best pitchers in the sport now until probably the All-Star break, it'll be very interesting to see if the Mets can keep this pace up, or if the pitching starts to break down, and then that could trickle into potentially.
So Nick, do you think that with both of these guys down, should the Mets be looking to get out on the trade market and find themselves a pitcher?
It depends. Scherzer's out 8 to 10 weeks. They don't have too much of a bad pitching staff. One guy that Dan did not mention was Carlos Carrasco, and
he pitched very well. I benched him yesterday on my fantasy team because pitching in Colorado is usually not a winning strategy. Mm-hmm. But he pitched extremely well.
Yeah, so. I mean, this year he's 4-1 in 8 appearances. Got a 3.5 ERA, and he's got 39 strikeouts. So he's probably going to be their ace going into the All-Star break. Should they go looking for a trade? It depends, because it's right now it's going to be a short-term solution. So they don't want a long-term problem, and I'm talking about payroll for a short-term solution. I think they're 7.5 games up on Philly, and then Atlanta. So
I got the standings right here. So let me
if
go
they
to
can,
the standings here. Mets are, they're leading by 7.5 over Philadelphia and Atlanta.
Okay, so if they can keep them at bay until the All-Star break, they should be okay. But once they start losing ground, will they go into panic mode? Who knows? Do they have anybody down in their farm system that they can bring up? Who knows? But like I said, don't create a long-term problem just for a short-term solution, especially with payroll and that debacle that they have there. And like we said, the wheels start falling off the cart in August anyway. So what you're going to do is just speed up that process. So if you can just hold on, just hold the edge, lead by 2 games going into the All-Star break, you get Scherzer back, you get back into the fold, they should be okay if the hitting stays true the way it is now. And I'm speaking, and I can't believe that I'm giving Mets advice, which I hate the Mets.
Right. So, so does this give you, as Philadelphia guys, does this give you any optimism that maybe your team can get it to going and overtake them
No,
at some point?
no,
Okay.
no, because our biggest problem is, well, we have two. Our two biggest problems right now, one's the front office, and the other one is the bullpen. So once those two get fixed, then I'll have some hope. But until they put something on the field that's productive, uh, I'm not getting hope, because as we can see, every time it goes past the sixth inning and the starter goes out, it's good luck, because our
So
bullpen sucks.
Dan, you agree?
Yeah, and it seems like, just like the Mets, the Phillies always seem to be cursed to. They seem to kind of never have a good bullpen again. And of course, 2 weeks ago now, the Phillies went on a West Coast road trip and went 5-2 against the Mariners and the Dodgers. 2-6-1, but it felt like 3-4 after they blew the lead and the chance to sweep the Dodgers on Sunday. Then the Padres came to town, shut them out twice, and then the Dodgers came, and other than today, the Phillies, I don't think the Phillies have scored 4 runs in a game since last Saturday.
Yeah,
that's
that was
part of
supposed
the
to be
line.
the Phillies' staple, was going to be run production.
And
Exactly.
the thing is too is that
it feels like they can't hit when they do get decent pitching, but then they hit and the pitching falls apart.
well, we'd also mentioned that, I don't know if it was a coincidence that Harper was out the past 4 games, and those
That's
are
right.
all the games that they didn't have any run production. So they have to pitch a perfect game and have Harper in the lineup for them to win.
It's
All
at this
right.
point,
So,
it seems like it.
so do you think this? The Atlanta Braves are the defending champions. They have not played well, and let me just put this out there. I don't think it looks good for Atlanta, because they've played a home heavy schedule up till now, and they should have taken advantage of that and have not done so. And so they're going to be having to even that out on the road. Everybody's got to play 81 games at home and 81 on the road. Well, they've got a lot of road games coming up, and so do we give Atlanta any kind of a shot this year, Dan?
I think, I mean, you saw it last year. They weren't over 500 until the middle of June or July or whatever it was. The same thing happened, and now they have Ronald Acuna back. Obviously, he's still not 100%, I don't think, but as he gets to 100%, you have to assume, with the talent they have on the team, that they'll be better. And like we've been saying, it seems like the Phillies and Mets are cursed at some point to go 2-8 in 10 games. And all it takes is one of those streaks, and the Braves to go 7-3 against the Nationals and the Marlins, and you're right there. And then the Braves have they have the experience winning a World Series last year, and they've got a lot of talent. So I think the Braves have a good chance of coming back, if only because I know the Mets can't have nice things.
Yeah. So, all right. So we talked about Max Scherzer. If you remember, Dan, when we were live on our draft, and Vince's dad picked Lance Lynn during the draft, of course, and during the draft we found out that he was injured. And so he's supposed to be back on June 3rd, which that's still 3 weeks away or so, maybe 2 weeks. And so he's supposed to be back on June 3rd. Eloy Jimenez is supposed to be back on June 5th. And so one of the questions that came at me was, Jimenez is on a lot of waiver wires right now. And he, is one of the classic guys. Remember how he came down the stretch last year? And so if Jimenez is on the waiver wire, is he looking for somebody, Nick, that you could possibly, look at picking up?
Oh yeah. I mean any type of, like we said before, pitching is king right now. So you have to jump on all the hot pitchers. unless and obviously you always have to watch your league settings, so you don't overpitch in the early part of the week, and then you're top heavy. But he's one of the guys that I would look at, especially going down the stretch, because if he gets hot and your pitching is, your hitting is ice cold rather, you're going to need someone to put some points up on the board for you, and he could be one of those guys.
Yeah, when he came down the stretch last year, he was carrying that White Sox team, and so Dan, you agree? Jimenez, pick him up if he's on your waiver wire.
Absolutely, and I'm going to go check in both my leagues right now, because if he's on the waiver wire, he needs to be on my team, because it seems like all of my teams have had problems hitting this year. It seems like every time I come on this show and we're like, oh, let's see who could be potential drops, and I look at my team, I'm like, that guy. Like, I could drop all of them. I want to drop half of them because they're just no one seems to be producing right now. And Eloy Jimenez is a guy that could hit 5 home runs in a week and win.
He can. He definitely can do that.
A matchup by himself.
So, Nick, we talked about Clayton Kershaw. It's still May 30th for him. They're talking about, and too bad that Vince isn't here, because he could chime in about Willie Adames. Mm-hmm. And he has a high ankle sprain.
I have Adames on my team.
Me too.
I'm hurting.
I should have traded him. I should have traded him to Vince while I had the chance.
Well, maybe not, because Vince, he's offered me 2 different trades in our league, and both of them, Vince, come on. So maybe, it's fortunate that you didn't say yes to that. So, let's see what else. So Salvador Perez should be back on the 28th. And, as we predicted, Salvador Perez has not been Salvador Perez this year. And so, but that's a guy, classic guy. You cannot drop him. You can't. If he hits 100, you just can't. So are there any other players that are out there, Nick, that are injured that you'd like to bring up? Maybe, somebody that's, possible that you could put on, if your injured list, or, add them in some way?
Let's see who's injured. Yes, I do have one guy's come up right now. I would like to bring up Martin Perez. Well, actually, he's not injured. So I'm looking at injured players. I don't see anybody really that I would like to bring up that's injured. Maybe Tyler O'Neill, outfielder from the Cardinals. Right now, he's got 77 points, which isn't terrible. And then Tyler McGill is also on the injured list. He's out 15 days.
I got June 7th for him.
Yeah, I got 71 points overall for him in my ESPN leagues.
Right. So, that's a player that if you got him on your IL, you need to leave him there.
Mm-hmm.
And, this other league that I'm in that's apart from ours, Dan, somebody actually dropped Jacob deGrom. And so I rushed over there. I don't know. I didn't do it.
Why would they do that?
I don't know, because I guess they figured, well, he won't be back till July at the earliest. So, a lot of players, and I was talking to this other guy. He has 6 IL spots in his league. I've never heard of that before. Having 6 IL, we've got 3. I think that's pretty standard. And so some of these you have to make a decision, because you got 3 guys on your IL already, and somebody else goes down. So either you're going to have to leave them on your active roster or drop someone. So, but if you got Jacob deGrom on your IL, leave him there. Okay. So
I'm doing that right now.
So those are some of the players. Steven Strasburg is a guy that needs to be on the waiver wire, I think, because you don't know how he's going to, he hasn't pitched in like 2 years now. So Mitch Haniger is a guy who was out till July 10th. And so, some of these guys, like I said, you need to make a decision and then just just live with it and have a reason why you're making these decisions. Because I'm going to put something out right now. Because this last week I had Martin Perez of the Texas Rangers, and I saw that he was pitching on the road at Houston, and so I dropped him. So what does he go? He goes and pitches a complete game shutout in Houston. Their ballpark is a hitter's ballpark. It's not like up here in Texas. Their ballpark or anything.
You got burned.
You've got to make moves, and when you're in fantasy baseball, and you have to have a rational reason why you're making these moves. But sometimes you just got to eat it. So, and somebody picked him up, so he's no longer available in our league. And so, if you're thinking about going to the waiver wire, he's not there. So there's that for the injuries. I wanted to touch on some of the rookies that because we're coming up on week 7, and so Dan, what are some of the rookies that are that you're looking at right now and that are playing well?
Well, the first one obviously has to be Seiya Suzuki, and that might be cheating. He's 28 years old, I'm pretty sure, but he's been as advertised for the Cubs. The team that's been better than I think some people thought they were going to be. And Seiya Suzuki, he's leading all rookies in. Let's see, I think he's leading all rookies in doubles, RBIs, walks, and hits, and that's a good formula for him winning NL Rookie of the Year. And the other one is Jeremy Pena, shortstop for the Houston Astros.
And that's a player right there that was available in our league, Dan, for a long time. And
he found his way to my shortstop spot. Thank goodness. I was looking for a shortstop for a long time when I got him. And
I got him
in and replaced Carlos Correa. And obviously you're not going to replace and replicate what Carlos Correa did, but Jeremy Pena's done a pretty good job of that.
He's done a great job. I've got him here. He has 7 home runs, 21 RBIs, and 20 runs scored. So he's doing it all right there. So, yeah. So, if you picked up Jeremy Pena, you're pretty happy with that. So, Nick, who are some of the rookies you're looking at?
Julio Rodriguez from Seattle.
Okay, I've got him right here. So,
and then how's he doing for you?
Well, he's doing pretty well, and the part that really stands out about him, he's got 11 stolen bases.
Yeah, I have 12 here. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
12. Okay, he had 11 when I was looking up the stat, and so if you're in a league like a Cats league or one of those that speed is the hardest thing to find in fantasy baseball. Yeah. And Rodriguez was on the wire, and I picked him up. And so as soon as I picked him up, he went crazy. And he's been hitting well. And he's got, like I said, 11 steals. So I'm all in on him, even though we're not in the Cats league. But a steal is still a point.
Exactly. So then I got Joe Ryan, pitcher.
Joe Ryan at the top of my list, Nick.
For the Twins, he's 5-2, 2.28 ERA, 42 strikeouts with a WHIP of .99. So if he's available, go get him.
Could be, but So because he leads in innings pitched of rookies. He's second in strikeouts. He's second in ERA. So Minnesota's in the position they are, because they've gotten, surprising contributions from somebody like Joe Ryan. And before he went on the disabled list, Dylan Bundy was another one that was pitching pretty well for them. But yeah, definitely Joe Ryan is at the list. And, Mackenzie Gore of the Padres, he leads in ERA. But, he's got a 1.207 WHIP. That's not really that great. And so I don't know if that means that there might be some recession coming with him or not, because you cannot be putting people on base like that. Eventually they're going to score. He does have more strikeouts than innings pitched. So that's, one thing for him. We could talk about Reed Detmers. He's pitched the no-hitter, but aside from that, nothing really stands out about him. He's got a 4.15 ERA despite the no-hitter. And let's see. Oh, it's too bad that Vince is not here because we were going to bring up a certain Baltimore catcher.
Oh, yeah.
That he drafted, which I still to this day don't understand why you would draft him.
He's terrible.
But he made his major league debut this week, and I saw that he has 3 fantasy points, so he put something together.
Ooh.
So
first career hit,
right? First
was
career
it all
hit,
in one game?
I don't know. I thought he had 3 points. I believe so. But if catching in fantasy baseball, as we all know, is one of those, if Salvador Perez isn't doing it, maybe there's not a catcher worth owning in fantasy baseball. But
it's tight end in baseball. In football.
It really is. And so, if you are in a league and he's out there and he's on the wire, go ahead and make a move and pick him up because he's going to be on that major league club the rest of the season.
And what is his name?
It's something that I wouldn't even possibly try pronounce.
Adley Rutschman.
Rutschman, that's right.
Rutschman.
Okay, thank you for that. So so if he's on your waiver wire, and you don't have a catcher, and who does in fantasy baseball anymore, go ahead and get him. So that's my take on him. All right, so we're getting kind of long, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some statistical leaders and who here among us had Taylor Ward leading the major leagues in batting and also in on-base percentage and slugging. Anybody?
Oh, I did. All me.
You had
all me.
You had him leading all those 3 categories, Nick.
I called it at the All-Star break last year.
Okay. So, he's anybody here think he's going to hit 370 for the rest of the season? Anyone? No. Okay.
No.
But he's one of the reasons why the Angels are doing what they're doing. And Manny Machado is hitting 363. And Paul Goldschmidt, we were wondering if he was getting older. Well, apparently not, because he's hitting 327. And so let's see what else. The leader in National League home runs, C.J. Cron. Okay,
he plays for Colorado.
Christian Walker, who had him?
He gets an asterisk. Cron gets an asterisk because he plays in Colorado.
But I agree with that. But what about Christian Walker of the Arizona Diamondbacks? Who had him leading the National League in home runs? Anyone? No. So the American League leader is Aaron Judge. That's a little easier to predict. So those are some of the. Oh, and RBI. Too bad Vince isn't here because who's leading the National League in RBIs is Rowdy Tellez of the Milwaukee Brewers, who I picked up, and he wanted me to trade him to Vince. Okay, and I resisted. So yay me. So if you're out there, and you're thinking to yourself, should I deal with Vince when I'm trade? You might want to second, think that. All right, so let's move over to fantasy, as this is a fantasy show, obviously. And so, who are some of the players? And I have an article ready to go of players that I'm ready to pick up. But as we always talk about, who are we looking to drop, Nick? So there are any players on your roster where you're like, man, you're stinky, you got to go.
We keep coming back to him, man. Max Muncy. I mean, I want to drop him.
At some point, you got to, just go ahead and punt because it's not happening with him.
I would love to drop this man, but unfortunately, he's bad enough to where I can't not want to drop him, but
right.
yet
he's not doing anything for him either. That's the problem.
And he's good enough that I can't get anybody better to replace him. So right now he's holding on. Who else would I drop on my team? I dropped him and picked him up 3 times. Elvis Andrus,
Yeah, I
shortstop,
tried that once, Nick, and I let that be.
and then Vogelbach is my other guy. I mean they're fillers, but again, I pick them up and there's nobody to replace them. Every time I go to my drop and add and I put in my own team, they're above everybody else. Now I did pick up a pitcher today.
Okay.
I picked up Bruce Zimmerman from
Okay.
Baltimore. I mean
Okay.
he's 2-2. He's got 34 Ks.
Yeah, he's been okay. He's been okay.
And 74 points overall. So
yeah, he's been okay.
And he averages 9.3 per start. But my problem is I have too many starting pitchers. I want to get more relievers because, pitchers, they only pitch every 5 or 6 days, depending on the rotation.
Well, the good news for me is because I got Hader on my team, and he was out for a while, but he's back. So that's good news.
Oh, and then Clevenger went back on the IL 15 days.
Yeah. So, Clevenger. So, Nick, do you hold him while, put him on IL, or you just, if you've got 3 guys already on IL, do you just cut him loose?
Well, I have 2 guys right now. Well, I have Clevenger and Adames, and I'm not dropping Adames.
Yeah. So if you drop him, just run out in front of a bus or something, because
I think I will.
Not happening.
I think I'm gonna light my hair on fire before I do that, though. I'm gonna keep Clevenger because when he's in there, he is a producer, so I can't drop him.
But if you had no IL spots to put him,
then I would drop him. I mean, like I said, he's only available so far. I think he's only been available maybe 15 to 18% of the time. I'm not a math wizard, but yeah. But when he was out there, he got me. Let's see exactly. I can tell you exactly how many points he got me. Okay, so in his first start, he got me 5, and then against the Phillies, 2 days ago, he got me 24. So he's making a huge argument for himself to keep, except for the fact that
24 points make you sit up and take notice.
Yeah, pretty much. So he's hard to get rid of, and in 3 starts, he's got 36 points. So again, he's doing well.
All right, Dan. So who are the players you're looking at that they've got to go?
Well, Corey Knable's one of them. I've been hoping he could find the curveball.
He's at the top of our waiver wire, Dan. I don't know if you noticed that. He's at the very top of our waiver wire, and I want nothing to do with it.
No, he's been struggling. So he's hitting me on both fronts. He's hitting me on fantasy and in my rooting interest for baseball. Yasmani Grandal, it's so hard, because I'm in a category league where I have him, and he's almost not worth it anymore. I'm almost ready to put out a blank catcher spot in it, but I need power so bad. I'm just waiting on him to hit 3 or 4 home runs in a week, but it looks less and less likely as the year goes on.
Yeah, just so you know, Dan, you can't have a blank catcher spot. You have to have someone.
I don't have
in our league. You have to have a catcher, at least one.
Yeah, I'll keep a catcher in our league because it's hard to get a catcher that'll get me negative points every week.
I've read that before where people are saying, "Well, I played with no catcher. That's cheating the game," and I'm not having that in this league. So, I said that right before we got started. You have to have a catcher. So there you go.
All right.
So that's settled.
That's settled. All right. So, Dan, anybody else?
Tyler O'Neill is one of them. He really has not been playing well, and now that he's on the IL, and I've got a rash of injuries, I've got 5 guys on the injured list, and only 3 spots for him. So O'Neill might be the 3rd guy. I might drop 2 different guys. He might be the last IL spot, but he's a guy that I was hoping he could recapture his form last year, where he was hitting a bunch of home runs, stealing a bunch of bases, but he just hasn't done that early in the year. And now that he's injured, it'll probably make it easier for me to let somebody go, whether it's Tyler O'Neill or not. we'll see.
Okay, so I just have to say that if you still have Franmil Reyes on your team, why? Okay, he's got 6 fantasy points. 6. Why? Get rid of him.
Because all those guys are with the Max Muncy owners, and we're all getting ready to jump out in front of a bus.
Okay, so if you expected as much out of Reyes as you did, Max Muncy, that might be an issue right there in and of itself. So,
and to add insult to injury, he had the error today that led to the Phillies win. So it's good that we don't take points off for errors.
Right. So, that's one of the good things, especially with you guys, with, Philly fans, defense has nothing to do with fantasy baseball. So, but so
Lucky.
he's at the top of my list. Another player, I know he's back on the field, but it's Joey Votto. And I see he's got 7 fantasy points. And he's got no value to me whatsoever. He only plays first base. And that's a problem. I don't want anything to do with him. And also, Joey Gallo, he is now out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not hitting anyway. So cut him, get him loose, break the mold, get rid of him. So so now that we got the players that we've dropped, Nick, who are you looking possibly to pick up?
Well, we already mentioned one. We already mentioned Martin Perez. So right now in my league, he's in the last 7 days, he's been picked up 39%. So
it's gone way over the line. So
he's the top guy. Then Andy Rutschman comes in at 24%.
If he's still at 24%, get him now.
And then Tony Gonsolin from the Dodgers, he's up 24%. So those are the top 3 guys. One guy I like, and if he was playing a little bit better, I would pick him up, even though he's a Met, is Brandon Nimmo. Let's see his stats exactly this year. Right now, he's got three home runs, and he's batting .294 with 15 RBIs. He's a filler. If you need a guy to throw in there, but I don't know, just something about him. I like him, and I liked Conforto as well, but he was nowhere to be found this year. As far as did you want to go to the drops now, or did you want to go to Dan?
Let's go over to Dan. So Dan, who are you looking to pick up possibly?
Well, one guy that
who's worthy.
We already talked about him. He's leading the NL in home runs. Christian Walker. He's only owned in 18% of ESPN leagues.
Okay.
And he's got 17 extra base hits. That's certainly worthy of picking up. I'm going to see if I need a corner infielder now. And another guy is Austin Hayes.
Okay. I've got him. He's at the top of my list too.
He is owned in 65% of leagues, so not wildly available. But if he is, he's hitting pretty well at the top of a lineup that just added a really good player, Adley Rutschman. Cedric Mullins is playing better recently. So that's a lineup that has some intriguing options in it now. And if you're looking for, a spot starter, I think a guy that's been very interesting this year is Jeffrey Springs. And he's a former reliever that the Rays are now starting, and that always interests me. When the Rays do anything interesting with the starting pitcher, you have to pay attention. And in his last 2 starts against the Blue Jays and the Orioles, he's thrown 10 1/3 innings and hasn't allowed a run and got a win against the Orioles. So that, for me, that's all the convincing I need. So the next time his turn in the rotation comes around, I'll definitely be trying to pick him up and get his start.
So you talked about Austin Hayes. Another guy I had, was another guy hit 3 home runs this week was Josh Rojas. And I read right here where he's got a bruised left hand. And so if his left hand is okay, he's a guy that's qualified at second, short, third, and the outfield. and he's at 24% owned. So if his hand's okay, go ahead and go get him. Another guy that I've talked about and I've written about is Santiago Espinal, and he's at 19.7%, and he's had a hit every day this week. So if he's out there, he's on our league. So go get him. And let's see. Those are the guys I had right there. Tomorrow, if you Zach Greinke is at 46%, and he's facing Arizona, and Arizona's not exactly swinging the bats as well as they could. So if he's available and you want to go ahead and get a starter for the first day of your week, go out and get Zach Greinke.
If Vince was here, he could tell us about Colton Wong.
He could. He definitely could. So, in the last couple minutes here, are there any players that, Nick, that you're struggling with? What do I do with them? Do I drop them? Do I hold them? Do I try and trade them? Is there somebody that's on your roster where you just don't know what to do with?
We covered it. Muncy, that's the guy I would like to break out. But according to the most dropped players in the ESPN league, it's Chad Kuhl, pitcher from Colorado. I know you have spoken about him many times. He's rostered 35.6% of leagues, and right now his ERA is 3.86. Like, he's just stinking up the joint. And he's 3-2, and he's only got 30 strikeouts. So if you have him, if you can find a better option to put on the mound, I would definitely put him on the mound. Another guy that's available, that's not on the IL is George Kirby. He's been dropped 12% of the leagues because he is 0-1. He's only pitched 15 innings, and he's got a 3.6 ERA. And then the other guy is the guy that I picked up was Zimmerman from Baltimore. And, of course, Zimmerman, these are all pitchers rather. Let me go to Stevie Kwan. Stephen Kwan, he's not doing too well. He's only batting .265 with 1 home run, 13 RBIs, and 1 stolen base. So he's not winning you many ball games. He doesn't have speed nor power.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that people were trying to stab people with, to get out of the way to pick him up when he started off so hot. We just knew that he wasn't gonna maintain that.
Yeah, so I don't know what he's doing for you other than just filling up space on your roster that can go to a more productive player.
So, all right. So, Dan, are there any players that you were just trying to figure out what do I do with them?
Well, the first one is a guy that I should probably just drop, but because my hitting has been so abysmal, I'm hoping he'll break out, and that's Nelson Cruz. Hitting 194, just 4 home runs, and at his age, it might just be that he doesn't have it anymore. It might just be the end for him at this point. And the other one is Marcus Semien. I talked about him very highly on our middle infield episode before the season. I talked about him highly when I picked him in the 4th round during our draft, and he has responded by hitting 180 and 0 home runs through the first month of the season.
Dan, that's the statistic right there that you just mentioned that really shocks me, that he has no home run.
Yeah, and I know Texas is a huge ballpark, and it's not hitter friendly in the slightest.
Yeah, I've been in that ballpark. It's not that huge. So it's not the old park, but come on.
Yeah, and for a guy that hit 40 plus last year and came in 3rd in the MVP voting behind 2 guys that had some of the greatest seasons ever, for him to have 0 home runs through 40 games or so, that is not what you wanted to see out of a 4th round pick.
Who came in 2nd last year?
Vlad Jr. came in 2nd.
Oh, Vlad. Okay.
Which, you can see that. So one of the player I'm trying to figure out what do I do with is, he's not that owned, but I've got him, and that's Hunter Dozier of Kansas City, because he started off the week with 4 hits, okay? But since then, he is 1 for 12, okay? And I like him because he's got, first, third, outfield, he's DH. But if he's not hitting, got to go. So I got him. Let's see. I was wondering about Carrasco, but he answered that emphatically yesterday. He can't go anywhere. So those are the guys, right there. Glad Josh Hader's back. And, we talk about the Dodgers. What do we do with Justin Turner? I've got him on my team. He went 0 for 5 today with 2 strikeouts, okay? 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Run game right after he went 3 for 4, and you're like, hey, maybe he's turning it around. Well, he slammed the brakes on that. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with him. So we are coming to the – go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, every time you say Josh Hader, I think of Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live.
All right. So we come to the end of another episode here of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. And so I want to give everybody a chance to, say what we're doing, how we're out there. And Dan, I know that you're, the Belly Up Baseball department head. And so how's that going over there for on the Belly Up side?
It's going well. We're adding some more writers. We just added a new intern for the summer, so the Twitter account should be a lot of fun for this summer as the weather finally warms up and maybe baseball start going farther. If we don't, we shouldn't open that can of worms.
Yeah,
with just a couple minutes left. But it's going well, and check us out at Belly Up Baseball on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of good stuff going up every day. And you can check me out at DanDeMico14. I tweeted good things about the Phillies today. Finally, it feels like it's been forever since I've done that. So hopefully that lasts. I doubt it will. I'm sure I'll be tweeting about a bullpen implosion within the next week. So
Nick, where can we find you? What do you have going on?
Okay, well, you can always find me at TSS Fantasy. We're on hiatus, but we're coming back with season 2 on July 3rd. Not July 3rd. June 3rd. June 3rd. And you can always find me. We also have new sponsors. We have Underdog Fantasy. That's our newest sponsor. Check them out too as well. UnderdogFantasy.com. Also, we have our. You can find me also at the NLFA wrap-up show. They just played their championship games, so we'll be breaking that down and then going over that. And as always, you can find me here at the Belly Up Fantasy Live.
Yep, always here. So, you can always find me at Kevin62 WILSEA. And as I mentioned, there's an article on pickups of fantasy baseball that is about ready to go. It'll be out there by tomorrow. So if you didn't get the answer you're looking for here about who I should pick up, check that article out on the Belly Up Fantasy website side of things. And so, thanks guys for being here as always. And everybody out there, have a great week. I want to give a shout out because it's military month. That's why I'm wearing my military, shout out to all the guys and girls out there who are defending our freedom. I appreciate you. And so everybody have a great week.
And they're always in the clutch.
That's right. Always in the clutch. So we'll see you next time.